Yigdal no koyach adnai. He adds the level of koyches into Shem Adnai, all the way into all the different levels of Malchus, and the same thing that the person, just like when a person blows on a flame that's hidden within a coal, he causes the flame to become this gala. But in the similar vein, we make the spheres to come down. And that is through the avodah of Ru'usa the Liba. Through the will of the heart, we can cause the Amshacha, because the avodah of Ru'usa the Liba, the will of the heart, that's beyond reason. So that reaches into all the levels that are higher than Seder Ishtalshlus to draw down from the highest, most levels down here below. So now he's going to explain that even though it's similar, there is still a difference. And actually, we already explained this yesterday, that it's a difference because when a person's blowing on the coal and he's drawing out the flame from the coal, so then the flame is there in existence in the coal. Similar to what we spoke about, that when a person praises someone else and says, you are a chacham, you're a chazan, so they are bringing out the latent properties, the latent characteristics that are there within the person. A Yid is able to create the metzias of Chachma and Chesed through his shvachim, through the idea of Yigdal Nakoyach Adnai and so on. So now he's going to explain the reason why. What is it about Neshamas Yisrael that are able to do this? So on the 12th page of the copy is line 23, the last line before the wide lines. The reason for the fact that's the capability of the neshamas to draw down this hamshacha is because the neshamas are rooted in Hashem's very essence. Therefore, they are able to draw down from Hashem's essence totally beyond Seder Ishtalshlus to bring about all these levels, the koyach of Adnai. But true, Neshama is mushish and atzmus, but it needs to do something that expresses that connection with atzmus. What is that thing that it has to do that it expresses the level of atzmus? There has to be the avodah, not the level of the Seder Ishtalshlus of the Neshama, not the level working with the Koich Sagiluyim, with the Seichel and the Midas of the Neshama, but there has to be the avodah that's a result and an expression of the essence of the Neshama, the pure level, the way it's rooted in Atzmos. When the person evokes within himself that pure essential level that the Neshama has within itself, that therefore since that is the part of the neshama that's connected with atzmus, only through this it's the capability of the neshama to draw down from that level of Hashem's essence. It's the idea of the avodah, of the will of the heart and self-sacrifice that's beyond reason and knowledge. These are two things that are reflective of the neshama's root in the etzem of the Eibishter, that when the neshama works in those two aspects, when the neshama does the avodah in the etzem of the neshama, so then it draws down from atzmas. What is the level of Ru'usa the Liba Mesiris Nefesh? It's L'mayil Matamadas, so the Rebbe identifies it in Krishma, Shezoya Ava the B'chol Meidecha. This is the Ava with all your might. At the Rebbe Chassidus always brings down, Ma'oid shows on Bligvul, going totally beyond the boundaries and limitations of the Koiches HaGiluyim of the Nefesh. Hine B'chol Avodah the Ava Yesh Gimel B'chinis, in the general Avodah of love of Hashem. There are three levels. The love of Hashem, that's with all your heart, the love of Hashem with all your soul, and the love of Hashem with all your might. With all your heart is the avodah that is involved in every limb, the way that limb is, in his own particular mission and its own particular mitzias. So, for example, he works with his seichel, the way what seichel directs him to do. He works with his avad, the way he has avad, his yira, his malchus, his dibur. Every koyach, he works within the confines and the limitations of that particular koyach. That's the b'chol levavcha, he says, that he addresses and deals with every limb and organ accordingly. That's a limited avodah. B'chol nafshecha, on the other hand, the second level is with all your nefesh, meaning we know Mesiras Nefesh, like we know the Chazal explain. What does it mean b'chol nafshecha? Dafilu noitel es nafshecha, top of page Yud Zayin, that the person is willing to give up his life, even if it means that he's going to lose his life because of his commitment and devotion to the Eibishter. He's willing to do so. So that's the next stage. That's not about the koiches pratim. That's not about the aver prati. It's not about the particular limb and organ, but it's about his whole entire being devoted to Hashem. So now you say, so what can be higher than that? So he says, top of page Yud Zayin, that what does it mean with all your ma'oid? It's even higher than b'chol nafshecha. So how could it be something higher? That's also Mesiras Nefesh. We said that Rusa the Liba and Mesiras Nefesh is the highest. This is Mesiras Nefesh. So he explains the difference between what we're talking about when we're saying b'chol nafshecha versus b'chol ma'idach. This means the imi shagam b'chinas b'chol nafshecha Mesiras Nefesh. Though the level of b'chol nafshecha is self-sacrifice, b'chol makim. Mesiras Nefesh, the b'chol nafshecha, or Mesiras Nefesh al koich sagilui. When we talk about the self-sacrifice of b'chol nafshecha, it's the self-sacrifice of the revealed powers. In other words, he's not going to talk about physically giving up his life, but he's talking about that the revealed powers, he's going above and beyond them. He's saying, Hainu, she'oived b'chol ha'koiches shaloi, he serves Hashem with all of his powers and capabilities. Kol koyach being yonei, every koyach in whatever the form is, that koyach, action, thought, speech, intellect, emotions, ad Mesiras Nefesh mamish. He takes that to the ultimate degree. He's going to do his actions even to the extreme of Mesiras Nefesh. Begam koiches elu shemitzad atzmam einam sheyachim b'Mesiras Nefesh haru poil b'Mesiras Nefesh. Even those koiches that on their own are not connected and do not have an association with self-sacrifice, he affects in them self-sacrifice. So, for example, often in Chassidus it says how intellect is the furthest thing or doesn't have to do with the world of self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice has to do with the feet, with the powers of action, with the Evorei HaMaisa. Intellect wants to understand and needs to have the logic, and the head is the most difficult thing to put into hot water. The foot you can put into hot water, still and all. With the Avodah B'chol Nafshecha, the second level, he affects Mesiras Nefesh and self-sacrifice, and it brings about that even the seichel should be in the way of Mesiras Nefesh. But in all of these situations, the focus is in the particular koyach, and I'm taking that koyach to the utmost degree. It's not about me in my essence, which is what we're going to talk about in the next level, but we're talking about taking that thing to the ultimate aspect. Just to give an example from Nigler, and the Rebbe brings down this discussion that in the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, of giving up one's life to Hashem, there are two ways of looking at it. One way is that there is a mitzvah that a person must, for example, keep away from Avodah Zarah. But that mitzvah of keeping away from Avodah Zarah is to such a degree and to such an extreme that there are no holds on that mitzvah, even if it means giving up your life. So in other words, the Mesiras Nefesh is a component of the mitzvah of not bowing down to Avodah Zarah. Other mitzvahs do have that limitation. Other mitzvahs, Shabbos, you have to keep Shabbos, except for if it means that the life is in danger. Avodah Zarah doesn't have that limitation. So in that case, in that interpretation, in that way of looking at it, Mesiras Nefesh is part of the particular mitzvah that you have to have Mesiras Nefesh for, whether it's Avodah Zarah, Shfichas Damim, etc. There's a different way, a different explanation of the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, that there is a separate mitzvah. There's a mitzvah of sacrificing your life for Hashem, and that mitzvah applies in 3 cases, in the case of Avodah Zarah and so on. So, in a similar vein over here, perhaps we can explain that what the Rebbe is saying about B'chol Nafshecha, that's like the first case. You have to take the seichel that you have all the way to Mesiras Nefesh. You have to take the midas that you have, the dibur, the ma'isa, the machshava, whatever koiches you have to go out of your box completely. You have to have the utmost, strongest powers in doing that. But it's still within the box of that koyach. True, you're taking the koyach to the greatest degree, but it's still in the limitations of that koyach. That is not yet b'chol meidecha. That's still b'chol nafshecha. So he says at the end of line 10, b'chol meidecha, as opposed to avoida with all your might. It's an avoida that's not within the paradigm of the koiches at all. It's the essence of the soul beyond the powers. It's the avoid of the will of the heart that's beyond reason and knowledge. That's the avoid that's a result of the essence of the soul, the way it's rooted in Hashem's essence. Therefore, through this avoid, he draws down Hashem's essence. So that's the whole point that he was bringing this about. To explain the avodah b'chol meidecha was all to bring and understand how is it possible for me to be able to create the spheres of Chachma and Chacham and Chazdan, and to be able to have the Ata Yigdal Nokoyach Adnai, to draw down power into the level of Adnai. And this was all connected with Kol Ha'oina Amin Yesh Merabah B'chol Koiche. So he brings us down to the word of B'chol Koiche. So he says in line 16, V'zeh Shapirish Rashi B'chol Koiche B'chol Kavanos. That's what Rashi explains. That whoever answers Amin Yesh Merabah with all of his might, they tear up his decree. And B'chol Koiche does not mean to scream it at the top of his lungs, but it means what is the whole intention. What is intention connected to? Intention means the deep connection of the heart to Hashem, the will of the heart, the essence of the soul becoming revealed. Through the avoid of the will of the heart. He affects, there should be in such a way that it says, and now it should increase the power of Adnai, the koyach of even the highest levels of Malchus the Ein Sof. How do we bring koyach to Adnai, to even Malchus the Ein Sof? That's through the Hamshach, it's beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. And such a way that we draw this down also in Seder Ishtalshlus, like we spoke about yesterday, that koyach goes on the 28 times, Eis Lachshes, Eis Ladaber, etc., etc. Eis Lehi, Eis Lisnoi, all the 12, all the 28, 14 in the positive and 14 in the negative. But we said that only in Seder Ishtalshlus is there the 2 opposite lines, Chesed and Gvura, that one is not so good. But when you reach into a level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, which is what we're talking about here, because we're bringing it down from higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, we said yesterday, so that everything becomes positive. It's not L'toiva and the opposite of toiva. Everything becomes in the level of the right. That there's a double yimin over here. That Hashem's right is glorified with might, and Hashem's right will smash and crush the enemy. Crushing is something that has to do with gevura, and usually associated with negative. Yet when you're dealing with a high level, even Yamin, even the smile is on the level of Yamin, Chassidus says. That's why it says both Yamincha, twice. Because this is from the perspective of Atik, the Primis HaKeser, the less small of Hayatik. In the level of Atik, there's no left. The Kula Yamin, and everything is right. What does it mean that everything is right? It doesn't mean that the idea of right and left exists. The whole paradigm of right and left does not even exist in that level. It's beyond the whole idea of the the combinations of the left line with the right line, which is also a mila. There's part of our avoid and Torah mitzvahs is likolol smaller b'yamina, it says, to make that the left should be subsumed and consumed in the right. That's still in Seder Ishtalshlus. But what we bring down from higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, we're not making that that the left becomes sublimated and subsumed in the right, but Elakula Yamin becomes entirely right. That's why they can tear up his decree even after it's been sealed. The fact that we're calling it tearing it up means it's already signed and sealed. It's already a document. It's already, this is the final ruling, the way the court issued it. That final ruling only has the limitations when we're dealing with Seder Ishtalshlus. But when we're dealing with higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, so then there's no concept of the limitations. It was ruled, it was documented already, it was sealed, doesn't make a difference. It's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. It draws down in such a place that the fact that it was sealed doesn't make a difference, because even the left becomes right. This is also what we spoke about in the Maimer, that whoever lengthens the word echad, we lengthen his days and years through lengthening in echad. Now we said, what does it mean, the lengthening of echad? The idea that Shmoi Echad, Hashem's name, which is the level of letters, he lengthens his meditation in it. He meditates upon all the levels of the revelations, all the letters that there are throughout the Seder Ishtalshlus, like we spoke about earlier in the Maimer, the letters of speech, the letters of thought, the letters of intellect, the letters of delight. So then, by meditating on that highest, most level, he draws down from that level that's beyond Seder Ishtalshlus, that over there, the Chuli Yamin, over there everything is the right. So that right, that the level of Hashem's right is they make his days and years longer because you have that revelation of Hashem's right. That says the idea of length of days also has to do with the right, and everything has been transformed to the right. So therefore, that's what it gets. That's what he reaches to be able to do that transformation. So now the Maimer is going to conclude what he began. The Maimer of the statement of Rabbi Akiva in the Chazal. That's what Rabbi Akiva said. Fortunate are you, Yidden, before whom are you becoming purified? And who is purifying you? And we said these are two different levels. There are two levels of purification. Like it was explained previously, the general idea of purification is the avoid of tshuva. It's not just tshuva for sin, like the world thinks that tshuva is about when you do something wrong, you do tshuva. The idea of tshuva is that the spirit and neshama returns to the Eibishter that gave it. That the neshama rises up to its root, the way it's rooted in Hashem's very essence. Now, like we said before, the shaylish neshama, that the root of the neshama, he went through all the different levels that it's beyond. It's higher even than the last level before the Tzimtzum edition, which is where Hashem estimated in his potential about the creation of the world. And higher than that, there's the Aliyah Saratzen, where it rose up Hashem's will to create the world. And before that, there's Hamshacha Klolis V'Atokas Ha'atzmus. There's the general Hamshacha that comes out before the Ratzon, and the movement of Atzmus to come to that will. Rather, the Neshama's place that it goes up to, it goes to it's rooted in Hashem's very essence. That's the true idea of Tshuva, returning and connecting with that level the way it's rooted in Atzmus. And now we asked, it's a double lashon. So if you look at the verbiage, it's talking about what we are doing. Is talking about what Hashem is doing. Before whom are you becoming purified? That's what I'm doing. Who is purifying you? It's talking about Hashem. So it's talking about one is Momata Lamaila, one is Momaila Lamata. So he says in line 6, say that Avoida, who the order of the Avoida is. Initially it's the Avoida, before whom are you purifying? From below to above. You are returning to Hashem. Baruch Toshav. The mim has come afterwards, the avoid of who is purifying you, from above to below, until it becomes a level of tahira which precedes even barasa, like it's rooted in Hashem's very essence. We asked also about the lashon. Why specifically does he use the word Ashreichem, you are fortunate? There's many other expressions he could have used about how good it is that the Yidden have this. So he says, the Asher hu maloshen tainu. The word Asher is from the word Oisher, and good fortune is also in Lashon Kodesh, has to do with the light. V'hainu, the shoyrish an neshamas hu ba'atzmus ha'tainu gaposh kanal. Like we said earlier, that the root of the neshamas is in the very essence of that pure, undiluted, and simple delight of Hashem, which is higher than everything, and because of that, it's able to do all of this. That being rooted in Hashem's delight enables them to draw down also in Torah mitzvahs, like we say, Asher kiddushana v'mitzvaysav. Shemitzad b'chinas Asher, meaning Hainu b'chinas Ataynu Gaposhut, from the level of Hashem's delight, the pure, the unadulterated delight that the Yid is rooted in. Nasa kiddushana v'mitzvaysav. What does that mean? Not just what he does, but it's what we're doing. Like it says, you shall remember all the mitzvahs of Hashem, and you will do all my mitzvahs. Meaning you make them. A Yid makes the mitzvahs be Hashem's mitzvahs. Like the Rebbe explained in the previous Maimer that year, not just on a lower level, the way mitzvahs has to do with the Shem Yudke Vavke with Seder Ishtalshlus, even on the level where it's my mitzvahs, the mitzvah of the emanator himself, it says, you will make them. That the neshamas of the Yidden make these mitzvahs and affect it. How can they make the mitzvahs? Because of Asher. Asher, that's because they are rooted in the very essence of the Tainug HaPoshet, of this unadulterated delight. Now, the Rabbi Akiva compared this all to the mikveh, the whole idea of Ashrechem Yisrael, mi mitayel eschem. So he says, this is the same idea of the mikveh. This is also the idea of a mikveh. The mikveh, a mikveh is like a pit, but it's like a closed mem. It's square. That the square, the closed mem, according to Kabbalah, has to do with the sphere of bina. I think one of the ideas is expressed in the idea that there is ben arboim lebina. And Mayim Sheva Mikvah B'chinas HaChachma. Mayim in general has to do with the level of Chachma, and there's Oir, Mayim Rakia, there's Yam, and Mayim that has to do with Chachma. V'Tvila B'Mikvah, immersing in the Mikvah. Tvila Oisa Bittel, Tvila is the same letter, it's like the word bittul, or a bittul b'sharanun de keser. That's going even higher. It's become totally nullified in the 50th gate, the way it reaches all the way to keser. The gimel and yanim elu, and these three things. Bina chachma v'keser hemasasim the Yisrael l'rais v'kuchabrichu. These are the concealed levels of the Yidden, the Torah, and Hashem. The asasim the Yisrael bina, the concealed level of Yidden is bina. I think it has to do with the fact that the Neshamas Yisrael come from Malchus, which is Ema Tatos, Shchinta Tatos, and the inner part of Malchus has to do with Bina, Ema Ilah. So maybe that's why it's the Sasim of Yisrael is Bina. Vasasim de Reisu, Chachma, the concealed part of Reisu is Chachma, as we know, Reisu me Chachma Nafkis. Vasasim Kuchabrichu Keser, the concealed part of the Eibishter, that's Keser. Shezeu, Achre HaTzimtzum. These three levels are the way they are after the Tzimtzum. So too, there's the level of Bina Chachma and Keser, the way they're rooted before the Tzimtzum. That's also what it says, just like the mikveh purifies those that are impure, so too the Eibishter is metar the Yidden, the avoid of tshuva. Through the avoid of tshuva, le'rakat tshuva love, and not just the tshuva for sins. Avoid of the ruach tashva, the son, also avoid that the spirit will return to the Eibishter that gave it. In HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mataris Yisrael, Hashem purifies the Yidden. Shanasim B'chinas Toirahi, they become on a level that is pure. Shanasham Mesalsim B'chinas Sasim T'Kutshabrichu, the Neshama rises up to the concealed part of Hashem. As Menemt Atzmus Aleinu M'Boitim Moifadim T'Achtoinim, we take hold of Hashem Himself and we build a home down here below.